Thank you, everybody, for joining us in the luncheon session. Hope this is going to provide some sustenance and an investment into our afternoon session. So thank you again for your patience throughout the day. And we have very distinguished guests here, again from the local Westchester community here today. And it is my privilege to introduce Khader, who is the Executive Director of the Westchester People's Action Coalition, to give us a presentation about the organization and an exploration on our current crises in the world. So please take it away.
Thank you so much, Spencer. And thank you all for participating. It looks like you've had some really interesting presentations, and I'm sorry that I haven't been able to listen to all of them. I actually spent 4 years when I was growing up in Kampala, Uganda. I spent my elementary school years there, and it was during the time of Idi Amin. And I can tell you that Uganda is an extremely beautiful country, and we have very fond memories of living in East Africa. Africa in general is a very beautiful continent. So I'm sorry that I missed some of these important presentations. Let's see if the clicker is working. Here, I go this way, I guess. Oh, the switch, that would help. The side switch, okay. All right, here we go. Let's see now. Yay! Okay, so my name is Neda Khader in Arabic. People in English language, they call me Nada. My kindergarten teacher started saying nada, so it became Nada. In Spanish, nada means nothing. But anyway, I'm very pleased to be here with you. I have worked as the director of WESPAC for the past 21 years. WESPAC stands for Westchester People's Action Coalition. And we are a social justice organization. We started in 1974, working for peace in the world, challenging militarism, which is, you know, when especially our own United States militarism, basically the notion of spending a disproportionate amount of public treasure on building up a military, which means you have less public funds for housing, healthcare, education, employment training, all the things that people really need around the world. Of course, we also need security, and I'll get to that a little bit later. So WESPAC is one of the leading hubs in Westchester County and beyond for peace and justice work. We're actually right in White Plains. The founder of our organization has a center here named after her at Manhattanville College. It's called the Connie Hogarth Center for Social Action, and it's basically a training center for college students to become seasoned activists and organizers as they work for progressive social change in our world. So it's really been a delight and an honor and a privilege for me to work for this treasured community institution. Every day I do meaningful work. I don't have a very high salary or anything like that, but that's okay. I'm paying my bills and my work is so meaningful, and that's what really counts for me, that, you know, I'm making a difference every day. So that's WESPAC in a nutshell, and I have some postcards and I have some business cards if anyone would like more information later. So I'm going to speak briefly. I only have 4 slides because I know you've been listening and hearing a lot, and I'd love to hear more from you. We're talking about, whoop, did I just do something? Oh, here we go. So I wanted to zone in. So I started working in May 2001 for this peace organization. It was a few months before September 11th. Myself, I'm Palestinian American, I'm Arab, and I started working for this organization. A few months later, the Twin Towers were hit in a horrific terrorist attack. I have to tell you, it was really extremely difficult moment for Arabs in the United States, specifically, for Arabs and Arab Americans. It was difficult for Muslims. It was difficult for Sikhs. There were Sikh Americans who were shot dead after September 11th. I don't know if you remember hearing about that at gas stations, because people just thought, oh, they're all the same. The US government started a course of hyper-surveillance of Muslim communities. They were monitoring the mosques. They detained thousands of Arab and Muslim men after September 11th. It was a very challenging time. The response to people in my organization, and I was quite new, everyone was, the whole nation was just sort of stunned after what had happened. But I got calls from members of WESPAC telling me, we have heard that Muslim women who wear the hijab are being assaulted and attacked on buses, on subways, on trains in New York. We would like to accompany them to make sure they're safe. Can you organize that for us? And when I heard that, I was so stunned. I thought to myself, this is the kind of organization that I've joined. Wow. This is the response of members of WESPAC. I was just so humbled because, who was thinking about that at that time, So anyway, so that, just to give you a sense of what kind of institution I'm working for, I'm very proud of WESPAC, of our history, of the people who work for the organization. It's really impressive. February 15th, 2003. I don't know if any of you were in the streets. I was in the streets. There were 30 million people all over the world that were in the streets. And the message was, no invasion of Iraq. No war in Iraq. Iraq did not have weapons of mass destruction. There was no lawful or moral reason for the US government to invade Iraq. So here in New York, there were about 200,000 or 300,000 people that were marching in the streets, and we actually shut down the streets. When I arrived at Grand Central, the station was completely full, and I was with a contingent, a pretty nice-sized contingent. Cars just stopped. People were locking their cars and getting out because you couldn't do anything. It was like a jam-packed. So the world basically was saying, February 15th, 2003, 80 countries, there were very large demonstrations. I think in London there was perhaps almost 1 million people saying no war to Iraq. Did we stop the war? We didn't. And that's something that I actually want to get into. Here we are, we're convening because we want to live in a more peaceful world, a more just world. Our international institutions are not working as they should. Currently, we have Russia in Ukraine. Now, there are grievances, there are conflicts, but our position is that we never want to see violence used as a mechanism to resolve conflicts anywhere in the world. We want to see diplomacy. We want to see people's rights respected. And there's not just like, I'm Palestinian. There's not just one possible just solution to Israel-Palestine. There are multiple scenarios where all the rights of the people, the Jews, the Christians, the Muslims in Israel, in the Palestinian territories, all of their rights can be respected in different frameworks, but the point is that their rights must be respected. And this is the same position we have in all the areas of the world. Freedom of movement, freedom of expression, freedom of assembly, freedom of religion. And I'm going to add another right that we don't often talk about. This is Prabhat Ranjan Sarkar. He's a great philosopher of the last century that has really influenced me. He spoke about the need for world government. And if you think about the crises that we're facing today, and the ones that come to the top of my head include climate extremism is a big one. Everywhere in the world we're concerned. Look at Hurricane Ian ripping through Florida and coming up. 2 million people without power today, and there may very well be lots of lives lost. Our planet will continue to have more and more extreme climate events. We had drought, we've had floods. Look at Pakistan over the summer. A third of Pakistan was submerged in water. People's livelihoods are devastated. So Prabhat Ranjan Sarkar, he came at a time and he talked about PROUT, Progressive Utilization Theory, which is a very benevolent way of organizing human economy. And he also propounded a world government. And I have a dear colleague who's actually writing a book. He's in Florida, Craig Rundy. He's publishing a book on a world constitution that will be very interesting, and it's based on the ideas of Prabhat Ranjan Sarkar. And we can see right away with the United Nations and the Security Council, there are 5 permanent members who have veto power. And so whenever a powerful nation, United States, Russia, China, if ever they think that a resolution, even though the resolution may be aligned with international law, if they think it goes against their interest, what will they do? They have veto power. So we need an international institution that actually holds all governments accountable and holds all governments to the same standards of law and justice. So we have to tweak the system that we have now. And I do believe that moving in the direction of a world government, yes, it does mean that every nation will curtail to some extent the individual sovereignty of their nation, but it's for the benefit of the entire planet. Especially keeping in mind that we must have ethical leaders, we must have moral leaders, we must have people who see the entire humanity as part of one human family, and to keep that feeling that we're all members of the same human family, and to really implement that everywhere in the world. And that will definitely play a role in how the resources of the planet are used. Another major crisis we have in the world is extreme wealth inequality. And this is not sustainable. So this is another very big point that Sri Sarkar addressed with his economic system, which is really a way to eliminate poverty in the world. So you'll definitely be hearing more as we move forward. PROUT, Progressive Utilization, that Sri Sarkar's founded, it's based on a model of cooperation. It's based on a model of sort of dividing the world into socioeconomic zones, where each zone is self-sufficient, at least with food and basic medicines. And the economy is both, there's a private sector, there's worker-owned cooperatives, producer cooperatives. It's a cooperative-based economy. And then the very large utilities would be publicly owned. So it's a 3-tiered economic system where local people are in control of their own resources. So for example, in the Congo is probably one of the richest countries in the world in terms of the resources that it has. But why are there so many poor people in the Congo? Something is not right. The local people are not in control of the resources of their nation. So this needs to shift. And this needs to happen everywhere in the world, where local people control the resources. So let me give you the example of mining. Like where China's mining, multinational corporations are mining for all the minerals and resources and rare earth that we need for all of our gadgets, our cell phones, our technology. Okay, well, mining is can be extremely toxic to the environment. So there are different ways of mining. There are ways to mine for minerals that are very devastating to the local environment. If the mining company invests more in making it a safer process, it'll be much better for both the plants, animals, and the people that live in that local area. But what does that mean? It means spending more to make the process of mining less devastating to the environment. And right now, in our current economic model, the motto is what? Profit maximization. So that in and of itself is really not human, in the sense of being willing to destroy the whole environmental ecosystem of an area because you want to maximize your profits and you don't care about the people or the plants or the animals that live there. And so a corporation comes in, devastates an area, takes the profit, and leaves. And the local people are what? They're stuck with this poisoned water, air, soil. So this model is happening all over the world. In a proud progressive utilization theory model, no. Local people would be in control, and if it means that the mining company will make much less profit to extract the gold or the cobalt or whatever they need, that's completely, you do what you do because the animals and the plants also have rights in that area, and the people, of course, have rights too. So it's a very different way of thinking about how we use the resources of the planet. So I would encourage you to read more, and I have also more information about that. So this is my last slide, and I just wanted to sort of ask you, I've mentioned climate change, I've mentioned extreme wealth inequality, I've mentioned environmental degradation, I've mentioned the problem with profit maximization. All of these I see as very pressing issues, and I just wanted to get a sense of, and they're pressing issues that are well suited to a world government that would help address these issues. So that was my point. And of course, pandemic, I will add pandemic there as well. In other words, a governing body that coordinates policies around the world. And of course, if you think about what we've been through with COVID, imagine having a governing body that had distributed vaccines and technology and medicine in a rational, benevolent way all over the world. It would have been very different than the system that we have now. Anyway, so I just wanted to leave you with that question about what you think are some of the most pressing issues that we're facing today. And I think, I think I'll end it there. Yeah. Thank you.